Expectations as a leader. There are certain expectations that companies have for their employees, and they're called behavioral anchors. They're tied to the company culture, and you should demonstrate them. Now, there's like 5 main buckets. I'm only going to talk about 3 of them. The first one is leading people. That's like a creative director or like a UX director when you're leading like a small team. Some of the common expectations are things like problem solving, and not in the sense of like building a functional product. Problem solving means to the business, does building this product actually solve the business need? That's problem solving to them. Another thing that comes up is successfully dealing with conflict, relationship building to get stuff done. And as more and more companies are becoming like cross matrix and like super functional in many different departments, like that type of relationship is like critical. And a big one is clearing roadblocks for the success of others. Like that one particularly scores a lot of points with me. And if you're like a people leader, these are some of like just the basic things that you got to cover. Next bucket is leading managers. Like if you're in charge of like pockets of people, like a group director or a head of product, you're going to be looked at to integrate cross-functional point of views in the decision-making process, not just in your teams, but you're expected to like, know to work with legal or IT or engineering or like whatever the C-suite in charge is, and get their buy-in and get their opinion on whatever the creative is supposed to be. You're expected to handle complexity. Another one, managing politics. Yes, even as you get up to the C-suite, you still got to deal with politics. Selling up to executive leadership. It's one of those things going to be starting to be expected more of you. And now as design is getting more access to leadership, you're expected to know how to like navigate those conversations. And one that's coming up a lot lately is selecting and leading high performers. The third bucket is leading a function. So if you're leading a function or like a business unit, you're going to have a title like VP of Design or Global Head ... or Executive Creative yada yada. Like you're going to be asked to do a couple things. Like some of those anchors are going to be like setting the vision or thinking short-term and long-term for the business, thinking and scaling globally, driving financial impact for the company, like how design relates to money, and aligning the organization to implement the business strategy. So these are just a couple things, and those are the 3 main buckets. I'm not going to go into the other 2 buckets, which is like 1, if you're like leading an organization, or 2, if you're just kind of starting and you're leading oneself, just because of time and from what I understand about the audience. But if that's you, just like slide into my DMs. I'll address any questions or concerns that you have. Now, these expectations are actually pretty standard for most organizations. Like Fortune 500 companies all have their own version of this. The problem is that like most of this information is hidden. It's like Wakanda. You got to work like really hard to find it. And if your manager doesn't have it, you may have to go to like your skip level or your 1 over, or try and find the senior most HR person and ask them. Absent of that, these behavioral anchors are good to get the culture aligned to the type of leaders you want driving the company. Now, depending on the level of your job or the level you want to aspire to, these are just some of the core competencies that you should be aware of. I find it helpful in my career, and it's been proven time and time again that like whenever I want to get to the next step, I need to understand what that is, what I have to do to get there, and just start emulating that as soon as possible.